Earlier this month, Virginia became the first southern state to ban LGBTQ discrimination. In January, Utah became the 19th state to ban LGBTQ conversion therapy for children and teens. And 5 years ago, the Supreme Court passed the Marriage Equality Act, making same-sex marriages legal in all 50 states. But there's still a lot of prejudice that exists in the United States, and violent attacks and murders against members of the LGBTQ community are on the rise. And the Trump administration rolled out a policy aimed at codifying discrimination by keeping transgender troops from openly serving in the military. Joining me to discuss all of that is author of the book Gay Like Me, Richie Jackson. He's also an Emmy-nominated television producer of Showtime's Nurse Jackie and one of the producers of Torch Song on Broadway. So, Richie, this book is beautiful. It's a love letter to your son, Jackson. And he came out to you recently, and when he did, your teenage son said, being gay is no big deal, Dad.
Yes, he did. He told us when he was 15 he was gay, and I was elated. I wanted him to be gay. I had hoped he'd be gay. It was my greatest wish. But then he said, Daddy, being gay is not a big deal. My generation doesn't think it's a big deal. I thought, oh no, being gay is a really big deal.
And why are you so worried about that attitude?
But because he's growing up in a world, like you said, with marriage equality, with a drug to prevent HIV. Rainbows are everywhere. Hashtag love is everywhere. And I think that that is masking a very real war that is being waged on the LGBTQ community by the Trump administration and state legislatures.
I want to talk to you about your son's birth. Jackson was 3 months premature, and we have a photo of just how tiny he was in that moment. His twin brother didn't make it, and there was a critical point when Jackson needed a blood transfusion. I'm going to read that section of your book to our viewers. You said being prevented from giving you our blood wasn't a medical precaution. The doctors and staff knew we were HIV negative. We had to be tested to do the surrogacy. It was a smackdown when we were already down. One son dead, one son in critical condition who might not survive. We were helpless, and we were made to feel even more helpless. Richie, can you tell our viewers about the federal restrictions that still exist that prevent gay men who are sexually active from donating blood?
So in 2000, we were prevented from taking care of our child the way we had pledged to do it. We were parents for just a few weeks. Still in 2020, gay men are prevented from donating blood. The regulation now is they have to be celibate for 1 year. But it's really just still a discriminatory law that says gay men are diseased, we're dirty. And think about it. When the call to our patriotism, the call to act when there's a emergency in America, gay men cannot dive in and say, we want to help too. We are blocked. We are prevented by this discriminatory regulation by the FDA.
You talk a lot in your book about President Trump and the Trump administration and what you call a straight lash, the backlash to the Obama administration's more progressive, inclusive idea of LGBTQ citizens as citizens.
Yes, as people.
And Trump was actually at the wedding that you had to your husband, Jordan.
He was. My husband Jordan and I got married in 2012, and we had a very big wedding. And Donald Trump is a longtime family friend of my father-in-law's. So Donald Trump, Melania, Ivanka, and Jared were all at our wedding.
So do you think it's possible to be LGBTQ or an ally and still be a Trump supporter?
I do not believe the two can coexist. If you support Donald Trump, you are endangering the lives of LGBTQ people. Our safety, our personhood is not a political question. You want to talk politics, talk NAFTA. You don't get to talk about whether I have a right to exist.
Let's talk about the politics right now. The Democratic hopeful, Pete Buttigieg. He's the first openly gay person to campaign for the Democratic nominee, and he's doing very well in states like Iowa and New Hampshire. you made some headlines talking about him today, and the criticism that that some gay folks think that he is not gay enough.
I know. We're very good at being a circular firing squad in our community. There's this criticism that he's not gay enough, or that he's not the right type of gay that certain people in our community want to put forward. And my point is that the spirit of our community is that we have no litmus test as to who can be a member or what makes a member of the LGBTQ community. You can be my 15-year-old son and come out. You can be those young kids at their school assemblies who are disclosing their gender identity at the school assemblies. You can be that young man at Brigham Young University who said he was gay during his valedictorian speech. Or you can be a man who spent 31 years in the closet for fear that the life he wanted for himself wasn't possible, and for self-hate. That is a legitimate gay experience as these kids who are coming out, and we cannot start giving one gay experience primacy over the other.
I'm curious if you could tell our viewers a little bit more about your perspective. At sometimes you sound a bit curmudgeonly in this book.
I like to call it angry.
Angry, all right. Talking about how far the LGBTQ rights movement has come since you were coming up and where it is now.
Right. So one of the things that I think people are finding surprising in my book is that I think it's going to be harder for my son to come out and join the world in 2020 than it was for me in 1983. There are over 100 anti-LGBT bills in state legislatures right now, over 30 states. The Trump administration argued in the Supreme Court that if you can be fired for being gay. They argued in the Supreme Court that gay people could be denied services for being gay. They wanted the Health and Human Services Agency to institute a regulation that medical professionals could cite religious freedom and deny medical care for LGBTQ people. There is a riptide of hate coming at gay people right now. And when our son was a baby and we were teaching him how to swim in the ocean, we said, you swim parallel to a riptide. You do not go into it. This riptide of hate, he has to swim right into and actively work to fight against. And what worries me is these rainbows and this hashtag love is love has lulled this younger generation into complacency.
What challenges do you think are going to be the biggest ones in this next generation? Is it at the state and local level?
Right.
Are the judges that?
So I think that's where
President Trump is appointing now?
I think it's a combination, right? The legislatures are really a obstacle to us, and what they're doing is they're passing these bills to try to get them up to the Supreme Court, and if the Supreme Court passes them, the verdict is in favor, it will embolden other states. There are so many new anti-LGBT bills popping up. They're now trying to criminalize medical care for trans youth, life-affirming and life-saving medical care. So the legislatures are one problem. The anti-LGBTQ judges are another problem. And what I'm trying to do in this book, in my book, is to say, we have been talking about LGBTQ people wrong for centuries. We are not a defect. We're not worthless. We are marvels. Think about what all of us go through. We disappoint our parents. We're at battle with our government. We are stigmatized by religions. We're bullied in our childhoods. We're erased in our classrooms. We've survived a plague, and still we rise, come out, and say, this is me. That is the spirit of an extraordinary species of people. That's how we should be talking about and treating LGBTQ people.
Species of people that, at their core, are people and
Yes.
enrich all of us.
Yes.
Thank you, Richie Jackson.